1 p.m. Please join me in a minute. For our, we're meeting here for our regular board meeting Wednesday, April 12th. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Becca, can you take roll, please?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Sure.
Director Thomas,
I'm here.
Director Cicada,
I'm here too.
President Ratterman.
Here. Item 2 on our agenda is public comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on any non-agendized items. The public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for board consideration. No action can be taken on matters not listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Is there any public comment today? Anybody online raising their hand? Okay, seeing none, we're move on to our consent agenda. We have 3 items. 3A is our minutes, 3B is our monthly timesheets, and 3C is our claim summary.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Becca, can you take roll call?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Here. Yeah.
Director Thomas,
Sure. Sure.
I was annoyed that you didn't say all those in favor to say aye.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
and President Ratterman.
Well, you'll be annoyed all year. Yes.
So what about me? You didn't ask me. You did?
Director Thomas,
Are you here?
Well, I was here until you said you were
You
here.
gonna say yes or here?
I'm gonna say yes.
Okay. There we go.
One of those meetings. I think we're all a little distant.
All right, item 4, new business. 4A, discussion action regarding rescinding stage 2 drought mandatory conservation measures. It says Brad Arnold, but I'm guessing it's Kelly.
Good afternoon.
Kelly.
How are you guys?
Good.
Doing well.
So yeah, I'm here to present a resolution to rescind actually the stage 1 and the stage 2. Originally, your guys' packets mentioned stage 2, but we are going to do stage 2 as well. This is based off the executive order that Newsom signed on March 24th, Executive Order N523. In that order, he dropped some of the drought emergency provisions while maintaining some other measures. In that executive order, it ends the voluntary 15% water conservation. It ends the requirement for us to be in stage 2. Still maintains the ban on water use, such as ornamental grass on commercial properties. It still preserves several of the emergency orders as it relates to groundwater. And it does still retain the state of emergency for all 58 counties. Primarily for funding reasons, streamlining regulatory approval process for critical infrastructure projects, and a lot of emphasis on groundwater recharge. So that's why he kept the state of emergency for all 58 counties. Our hydrological conditions remain very good, so neither regulations or any supply reasons for CCWD for us to remain in either one of those stages, stage 1 or stage 2.
Question.
Go ahead.
Okay. We still have a position whereby if someone is flagrantly misusing water, they will still be
Yeah.
cited and everything
Well,
because.
Yes, I mean, we still have provisions in our water shortage contingency plan for, conservation and good uses of water.
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about is deliberate waste of water, and we can actually go to the point of shutting off somebody's water if if it reaches that point. But yes, that still exists.
Because that brings to mind leaky faucets, because that is a waste of water. And we don't have provisions to, go out and check or enforce.
No, I think this is one of the benefits of the new meters is that there's a lot of incentive now, because normally customers are incentivized to address those things on their own, because of the fact they're gonna have to pay for that water. And now that everybody has an accurate meter, we've seen a lot more of that as well. But as far as, if you're right, we don't go into people's houses and check and see if they have a leaky faucet and
Yeah, okay.
invoke the
And I'm
waste
coming
doctrine.
from where we've always been up in District 3, the fact that those are part-time
Yeah.
people, or part-time residents who come in and find that they have used 500 gallons or
Mhm.
however many,
Mhm.
and owe us a lot of money.
Yeah, and we're still gonna encourage water conservation. We're still gonna work through other partners like Calaveras Conserves and still maintain that conservation. I mean, it's very clear that they're trying to make conservation a California way of life. I mean, you're gonna hear that a lot, so. But what we're concerned, like, for instance, with Calaveras Conserves, is we also don't want that conservation fatigue, where we're just constantly driving conservation and people get kind of fed up with it, so.
I think we should be giving out leaky faucets.
Oh, right, yeah, that's.
That's how we pay our bills, right?
Just slowly.
We need leaky faucet.
You're,
I'll make a motion to approve, the resolution rescinding stage 2 drought mandatory conservation measures. I think it's right.
I'll second.
we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion up here? Sounds reasonable to me.
Yep.
Okay. We have 10 years of
Are all
drought.
executive orders like this? I mean, this is the first one I've ever seen.
They all look very similar. The ones that I've seen lately in regards to this, yeah. And so, I mean, there's been several throughout this process that, and they all look very similar.
Yeah.
It's a waste of payment.
And
You guys,
they have-
you guys have any other questions on that order or any other things I can?
Nope, we didn't, but public comment, we have any public comment on this item? You did such a great job and it's all spelled out so clearly. There's no questions and
Okay.
Well,
nothing further.
I have some fun facts too on Reddit boards and all that kind of stuff.
we have 10 whereases.
Well, and then there is an updated one too, so.
What,
That was
Should be 11 whereases.
less.
what do we do in regards to, I mean, so I assume that this executive, the previous executive order was on our website and that was our way of informing the public. And now we're gonna take that off and put in that it's been rescinded.
I don't recall if the previous one was on our website.
Yeah, it used to be the pop-up on
Pop-up,
the landing
yeah.
page, and we took that down a while back. And we sort of tried doing over the last month or so, we've kind of been pulling back some of the, you don't see the drought is here sign when you pull into George Reed anymore. And so we took that pop-up off the website. I don't, we could do some outreach on this. To Kelly's point, we still try to encourage responsible use of water. So it's not that we don't want to send a message saying, just turn your hose on all day, but we could do some outreach on this to make sure people know. that
I think it's a lot more-
we're not in a drought stage anymore.
I think it's a lot more important to make a splash when you're going into a drought, a
Right.
lot more so than it is when you're
Coming out,
coming out and
Exactly.
rescinding it.
right.
I don't know that we need, I mean, there's a lot of things going on that we could do press releases on and outreach, but I don't think this is one of
I
them.
would.
Yeah, we weren't planning on doing a ton of outreach on this other than just, like I said, pulling back the messagings in the drought stage that we were in before.
You also have a great big sign up in Avery on conservation or drought.
Oh, there's still a sign up there?
Mhm.
Okay. We can get those down.
Becca, you take roll?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
President Retterman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Item 4B, discussion action regarding approval of a side letter agreement with the management and confidential unit. Is Stacy going to take this?
She might be online, but she got called away for something today, so I am filling in on this. And we have it all under one resolution, but if you, as you saw in the staff report, we have, what is it, 4 or 5 different items that we're including in this side letter. We have a salary range increase for the district engineer position. We have the creation of the business services manager position that would oversee customer service and IT. We have kind of a cleanup item on the external affairs manager position. That was the only management position that had a level 1 and a level 2, and we didn't see the need for that anymore. So we're doing away with that and just going with the one classification for the external affairs manager. And then there was a typo essentially in the salary schedule for the original agreement, the original contract with the MCU bargaining unit. So those are the items that are included in the side letter. And all of that, in the staff report, we explain each of those items. I can go through them all. I can take questions on it, however the board wants to do it. If you'd like me to just talk through each one, we can do that. Or if there's questions on any of them, we can go.
I got a question on the salary schedule formula correction.
Sure.
Was the director of operations, was he overpaid?
No,
He or she?
it was prospective. So
there-
it was
there's-
only going forward.
No personal checks that need to be written back to the
No,
district?
no.
Okay.
It was something that we caught that is, it's on me to make sure that contract is accurate. It was a mistake that was in the contract. And so it's a correction that will correct future years, but it didn't impact current or previous years.
I read all the documentation and I don't have any questions. I think it's appropriate.
Wow. Well, fill Jeff in.
Um,
I'll let you ask questions.
I do have a question about this recommendation that the business services manager supervise or manage the IT department. Is it part of that job description that this person you're proposing, or that a person filling that position would have specific IT background?
No. And that's been a topic of discussion, and it's been one of the challenges with IT oversight over the years. And I think, the general consensus is it's one of those classifications that isn't a perfect fit anywhere necessarily. And so you could argue for it to be in multiple different places within the district. But unfortunately, what has ended up happening because of turnover and other circumstances over the last couple of years, it's gotten moved around a little bit. And really what we want to do is create some stability and some consistency. The main role of management oversight over the IT department is not technical. And we don't expect the manager necessarily to have that technical background. It's great to the extent possible, but it's not required. It's more of a coordination. The IT division is something that is critical to every department in the district. And so making sure that the IT function is integrated into every department and that there's coordination and communication across departments. That's really what we expect the manager to step in and fill that role, is assist and support IT as needed and fill that departmental coordination role.
Okay.
One, not a concern, but a question, whereby we have gone in and recommended a nice, healthy increase in salary to the district engineer. And so, I just want to make sure that, we have covered all of our bases.
Absolutely. It's not out of line with the agencies that we tend to compare ourselves to. We've spent at least a year recruiting for that position. Well, I guess formally less than that maybe, but not much less than that. And it has been incredibly difficult to attract qualified candidates for that position. So we felt like this was necessary in order to do that.
Mhm. Because I want to make sure that the coverage that we had with a district engineer, you know, just doesn't get. Because we did have a district engineer.
Right.
And I just want to make sure that the salary issue doesn't become,
No, I don't think so. I think we've
Questionable.
reached agreement on what needs to happen here.
okay.
Okay, something's rattling around in my head here about something, an item that we discussed several meetings ago about when a person is filling a position and suddenly they have supervisorial responsibilities that they get or can be entitled to an additional bump in salary. Is that
Not necessarily, and that's actually, we have a lot of examples where that's not the case. It doesn't justify, that in and of itself doesn't justify an adjustment in salary, depending on other circumstances. We did a salary survey essentially using the same comparators that we've used in the past for this position, for the business services manager position. And this is, we think, a competitive range. It's less than the average of the comps that we evaluated. But we think, you know, hopefully that's still competitive enough to attract the kind of candidates that we need for that position. But it included, when we did the comps, we took into consideration the fact that it would be overseeing IT in addition to customer service.
okay?
What's the shakeup with external affairs management?
It's just consolidating instead of having an external affairs manager 1 and an external affairs manager 2, which is the only management position we have, that we did away with it. We have
Still just one person?
one classification, one range.
We're still looking for that person?
Yeah, well, I'll jump ahead to my reports. I can't announce any names yet, but we have a candidate that's accepted an offer and should be starting before the end of the month.
For more than one position?
For what?
For
For the
the,
external affairs manager.
Just the
Okay.
external affairs. Oh, great.
okay.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
You can hold your, hold your good news.
He's
Yeah.
having a hard time holding back his enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Okay, any further comments, discussion up here? Any public comment?
I'll move for acceptance. Second.
We got a motion and a second. All those who want Becca to take roll calls?
You tried, you just couldn't do it.
Please take roll.
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Aye.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Um,
President Ratterman.
Yes.
And if I could real quick, I just want to acknowledge the management confidential unit. You know, this is an iterative process and they put a lot of work into this as well. And it becomes a better product, I think, because of the interaction that we have, the back and forth that we have. And so I just want to acknowledge and appreciate the work that the management unit put into this as well.
Because you are always doing that. You are always working for the buy-in, right?
Yeah, and
the
to make
management.
sure that it's the right solution for the district.
Scott, the discussion we had, wasn't that for 4B and 4C? So we just need to, no, it wasn't.
4C is a different
Okay.
Yeah.
side.
Okay, now we're on 4C, discussion action regarding approval of a side letter agreement with SEIU Local 1021. Michael?
Yeah, so this one is a small change to the SEIU agreement that essentially addresses I wouldn't necessarily call it a gap, but an issue that was brought to us in the rare circumstance, rare but not unheard of, the circumstance where we have a temporary employee, an employee that's on a limited term employment agreement that extends beyond 12 months. The union had asked for them to be represented by the union essentially. And we afford those employees the same compensation, the same benefit package that union members get. The only thing they don't get is representation from the union and incorporation into the bargaining unit. And so the solution we found was that once a limited term or temporary employee has extended beyond 12 months, that person will be included in the bargaining unit, the SEIU bargaining unit.
Yeah, because we had talked about that and you had come up with a plan because yes, we did have an employee.
We
Right.
currently do, and it's not unforeseeable that could happen again in the
Mhm.
future. And especially as, you know, we talk more and more about succession planning. You know, it's like I said, it's probably going to be fairly uncommon, but it's not going to be never. And this seemed like a reasonable step to take to make sure that they're treated the same as all the other employees. There's no additional cost to the district. It allows them to be incorporated into the bargaining unit.
Does
I,
that,
I like the idea of having that extra tool, of a temporary employee and this, I think will help continue that'll be a continued option in the future. And I think this is fair.
Mhm.
yeah, I do too. Does the employee, the temporary employee have to join the union and pay union dues?
Good question. I'm not sure about the mechanics of that. I think the way this works is they'll automatically be incorporated in the bargaining unit once they hit that 12.
Without being a
Period.
member?
Right.
Okay. I'm good.
Any further discussion? Public comment? This is an action item. We do need.
This is also a side letter. Yeah, so there's a
We do need
resolution for this
I'll
too.
make a motion to approve resolution approving a side letter agreement with the SEIU Local 1021.
Second,
Becky, can you take the roll, please?
Director Underhill,
yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
Director Sigeda. Director Radic.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Wow,
Yeah, is that it?
we're busting right through
Well,
Record.
Jeff's record is up for grabs.
the. What is it? What's the minute count? Okay, item number 5, report on March 2022. March, it should be 23, I'm guessing. Operations and Engineering Department, Damon.
No, he's just a year behind.
Good afternoon. Yes, I'm always somewhat behind somewhere somehow. And March was pretty boring, so you're gonna see a lot of pictures of boring things that have happened. past month.
Flowers are growing and that sort of thing.
Yeah, oh yeah, no snow anywhere, no storm related, nothing going on in Rancho Calaveras related to leak repair or anything like that.
Okay.
Never
good,
see that stuff.
Good.
All kidding aside, we'll just dive right in. So here's a depiction of a sample site repair in Berkesee. So sample location for water quality. We have these distributed throughout the distribution systems for all of our water systems. And lo and behold, when the field crew excavated to make a repair, we see that this sample site's propped up on some old lids. Looks like a lid split in half, stacked on another part of the lid or two lids. So always something neat that we find when we make repairs. So once the
Very
repair is made,
trained.
Well,
yeah,
that, how do you pronounce that? Berkasey or
Berkesee.
Burkett?
Yeah, you're gonna hear a lot about that.
Yeah.
You're gonna
we
hear a
hear
lot about
that all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's popular. A lot going on Berkesee.
So
Cindy.
when we get that beautiful map on the wall, that Berkesee would be nice to be labeled.
Yeah, we should.
The kind of stuff that I.
It runs parallel with Highway 26. The section we're concerned about mainly is really from Silver Rapids down to Baldwin,
Yeah, yep,
but it's that next street up,
yes,
primarily in flood zone, and we're getting ready for a sewer line.
right, yeah, exactly.
So tell me how that got plumbed that way. And
Well, I would presume that, in the installation or in the previous repair, most likely, it was, somebody needed to shim it up and get it to where it needs to go.
Rocks weren't available and we had
Yeah,
extra
yeah.
lids.
Yeah, really, yeah, so that's the ultimate example of recycling. Just making do with all the old infrastructure that we have. And then moving on to this is an interesting one. So there was a house up on Ojibwe, you guys may have heard, that exploded during the winter, and unfortunately total loss. And so the district had to locate the meter, shut the water off. And so Bill Heinley, our newest distribution operator up on the pass, he's about Pat's height. And then you can see him right there on the right, with his arm up in the air. That's a lot of snow. Just kidding. He's not as tall as Pat.
I was gonna say.
I mean, that is
Bill's about half the height. Maybe not half.
but you kind of get an idea of what our staff has to contend with when they're out looking to make repairs, shut meters off. We've had a heck of a lot of snowplow strikes with the county, grader strikes, blow off valves, fire hydrants. So not only are our staff, spending their time locating meters like this and then working to shut them off, but then they have to go respond to an after hours emergency of a leaking fire hydrant.
Yeah, this looks like a tough day that you put the newbie out there digging.
Yeah, yes,
digging his
exactly,
way
right.
Across country, huh?
Multiple shovels, multiple apparatus. There's a probe right behind him by his hand there. Yeah, just getting right after it. Phenomenal employee, by the way. Worked
I was gonna say,
weekend.
he's new to CCWD, but he is not a new distribution operator on
Right.
Evans Pass. He's
Yeah.
been doing it for a long time. Yeah, we're lucky to have him.
Yeah, he's great. Some more pictures of some snow on the generator, snow at the Big Trees 4 site, I believe that is on the right. Just snow everywhere, all kinds of, and the work never stops,
What is
right?
that, what's that structure on the right? What is it holding?
I believe that's covering the or the electrical panel, is that correct?
That's the pump station.
Yeah, right,
Under the, to the left of that overhang, that's all pumps are in there.
right, yeah, that's the pump vault, right, yeah, and then the overhangs covering the electrical. Yeah,
And the snow is, maybe it's down a foot,
yeah,
but it's still cold up in Evans Pass. That wind is coming in and,
let it melt is the new.
It wasn't cold on Monday. was
Let it melt
70
slowly.
degrees.
Yes, exactly, yeah, let it melt slowly.
Yeah.
oh.
It'd be nice if it just stayed like this for a couple months and then we had a slow melt, a slow.
Slow melt,
79.
yeah.
Oh, I don't know what
That
house
was
you
Mon-
were at.
That was on Monday. No, it's the only day.
Pretty sure the weather report is not on the agenda.
No.
So this next batch of slides is kind of indicating some of the work that our field crews, Doug Turner up in West Point and Pat and some other folks here at the district worked through related to road slide. So Barney Way in West Point, the image on the left, you can kind of see cracking in the road, kind of right down the center line. We got a call, an after hours call over the weekend of, hey, there's a concern that this road's going to give way. And sure enough, CCWD has a water main in the road and it's actually hugging the left side of the road right under that ponderosa pine tree. And so field crews responded after hours. Doug, our distribution supervisor in West Point, responded and worked with the fire department to visqueen the road, covered up. And you can see that on the right. And in an effort to keep it from sloughing. And unfortunately, the road sloughed anyway. And really what it looked like is that whole section of the hillside shifted. So it wasn't just the road, it's below the road. And you can see the image on the left kind of shows you some of the damage. And there's actually a home below this slough that was impacted by the slough. And then the image on the right is an effort to show you that blue flag, just how close that water line is to the slough itself.
Was there? Just seeing that, it kind of makes me wonder if they're like on a stretch like that, if there's a lateral line that's been dug and created a void, are those areas like that more likely to undermine the roadway and push it down the way? Is that a cause of that?
So, well, that's a great question. And yes, and so if you look at the image on the left here, you can see it kind of off to the right and down below by the bush. That's a storm drain outlet pipe. And so it looks like that pipe, and it's not an assessment of how the slide occurred, but that pipe was not fully plumbed together. And it's a 8-inch drain inlet, storm drain. And so,
Coming from where?
well, it looks like it was sat on the edge of the road there.
It's on the other side of Pine Tree.
Right, and grabbed any of the water just on the other side of the pine tree and got it off the road. And so one would, one could surmise that if that was plugged or if there were issues associated with that, the next thing you know, the road gets left. Now, there's also, I've been involved in conversations independent of CCWD about road sloughs where water follows a sand bedded trench line of a water line. That gets really interesting when you start to look at that, because you're right. And often now what we see is when we have these open cuts on a basically a cliffside, that whoever builds the road will oftentimes try to put in almost like a sheet pile to try to keep it from sloughing in any regard, because that water could follow a trench line, 60 feet, 600 feet away, who knows, but right. So the image on the left shows you that promptly after the slough happened, we determined that ponderosa pine might be at risk of causing some damage. So it was cut down, and it further exacerbated, or, my statement was, well, if the water main wasn't broken, then it's broken now, because it landed right. You can see those 8-foot long sections landing on the water main. However, Pat, Doug, the construction crew, Roger Tyndall, Dylan Cuneo, Matt Duncan, they all did a phenomenal job. They jumped in there early and we installed some isolation valves. So we shut the water line off at the valve as close as we could get to the slide so that we wouldn't impact the whole distribution system. Because there's quite an amount of pressure there. So if the line were to just break a wide open 6-inch water main, we could really do damage on the distribution system in West Point.
How
On
many
the-
customers are we talking about?
Right, so you're right. So we have 3 vacation rentals and then a full-time resident on the other side of that valve. Vacation rentals were empty. The full-time resident was there, would not leave, and is still there. And so the next couple slides show you that. So here's the valve installation. Working construction and distribution working together to get that valve installed. 2 valves actually, and then so the Good Samaritans of the area had ran what's called a highline jumper garden hose above ground on their property from one house to another to try to keep the full-time family in water. And then the district came back and we had an empty meter box where we were able to set a temporary meter and run the same highline jumper with district infrastructure. So the image on the right, you can see the black poly service line following the fence line. It just so happens that, so this is kind of like if this is the road and this was the slide, there's houses up here, and we could actually run this highline jumper down here to this house that's basically landlocked from the road access. They can walk into their house, and now they can walk by their water line that's on the ground that's providing them with water. Now, the same effort will occur for the vacation homes, but obviously the sense of urgency isn't as great as they aren't full-time residents. So the district is working, Pat and I are working on some solutions for them. This could end up becoming the complete full solution, is extension of a water main through this property in order to provide water to the folks on the other side of the slide, the 4 homes, because it's undetermined as of yet whether or not that Barney Way Road will be repaired completely.
Is it a county maintained road?
It's not, unfortunately. There's a road association. It's private. So, yeah, more to come on that one.
If I could jump in there real quick, I just want to add to that, how well our crews responded to this and handled this. Pat and Damon were coordinating directly with the county very closely. Our staff out there working directly with the fire department. I mean, it kind of takes me back to Director Thomas, the direction you gave me, I think, when I first started here was you wanted to see CCWD become a trusted leader in the region. And I think it's how our crew responded and responds to incidents like this that get us there. Cause they pick up the phone and call us because they know that our crews are going to be able to respond above and beyond just what, the immediate need for our customers are. But in addition to that, I got a lot of feedback from the county at just how impressed they were, the lengths that we were willing to go to try to keep our customers in water, try to continue to provide service to our customers, even though there's only a few customers on the other end of this line. We just got a lot of really positive feedback from the county and from the fire department on this whole work effort. So crew did a great job.
Awesome. I'd like to say too, that you can really see with the pictures and what you're telling us, how much staff does seem to go over and above. And I really appreciate that too. So thank you. It's gonna help district wide, and that's what we're looking for, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you.
And Damon, that, putting that isolation valve in place, that you must have had to cut off the water supply up above it someplace. How far away did that have to?
How far away wasn't very far away to isolate Barney?
No, we probably had 30 or 40 customers out and we did the shutdown and cut it the valve.
And that took about, yeah.
Mm.
So they were able to do this work in about an hour and a half,
That's
which is amazing.
impressive.
Good
And
job.
that,
That's really impressive.
looks like that if that isolation valve is located in that box, I see the lid on the ground there, that's in the shoulder. So that,
The isolation valve is
The-
right in the road.
The first one we had to put in right in the center of the road, the one closest to the slide is right on the shoulder.
okay,
And this is the meter set for the temporary meter, and we're running the service line down to the one full-time resident that was impacted by the slide. So you can see behind Doug, kind of on our right, there's a black, looks like a black poly line, and then that continues down that fence line, down the hill,
450 feet.
450 feet to the property.
How, how long is Barney Way?
I would say a couple miles.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because if
I'd say about
Mount
two-
Springs has, or KZ,
Yes,
West Point has Barney Way.
yeah, oh, yeah.
in a previous CCWD, that Good Samaritan would have been charged for the overage of the water they sent down the hill to his neighbors, so.
Right, that's true. So here's some pictures of the regulator at West Point, the Bummerville Reservoir.
What's it
down,
called?
it's called the Bummerville Reservoir. And you can see,
Who made this slide?
I don't know, but we'll find out. We'll
Yeah,
get-
let's
gosh,
look
darn
into
it, I
that.
think that might have been me. The image on the right, you can see the spillway with the trees down across so just more depictions of storm damage. Where we install redwood boards and baffles, the image on the left, to keep as much water as we can in there during the dry season. You can see trees there, trees on the right. So multiple work efforts associated with trees. Bear Creek diversion. This is kind of Groundhog Day from 2019. If you all remember, FEMA funded the restoration of this road in the atmospheric river storm of 2019. The road is still in good condition, just a lot of downed trees. However, we will issue an initial damage estimate for debris inside the diversion from February and March. As you know, there are two separate disaster declarations, one for January and now one for February and March. So we have issues from both. Here's some more tree and debris removal on the road down to the Bummerville, or the Bear Creek intake, I should say. And then moving on, so we have Sawmill Tank as our critical tank up on Ebbets Pass, 3 million gallon tank that basically provides water to most of the community on the upper end of the distribution system. And oftentimes when we receive as much snow as we have, it's inaccessible to our equipment. And so we rent a dozer, and our crews cut in a road or reestablish the road back to the tank. So this is images of that, receiving the bulldozer and then cutting in on the right, up the hill to Sawmill Tank. And there you are, more of that work effort.
Damon, how long is that road from A to B?
Oh, from,
From when you
what is
start
that?
from-
Probably,
Goes from White Pines, it starts at White Pines Lake and then
I would
is it
say
a mile?
about a mile, I think, 3/4 of a mile to a mile.
And
Yeah,
it's fairly,
Starting where the baseball diamond is, or?
over by there,
pretty
yeah,
much, yeah.
fairly steep.
No.
Yeah.
no, And they're,
Kelly knows it better than anybody, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And on occasion, that has to, once in a while, it has to be walked. I mean, that's the only way you can get there.
Kelly runs that.
It's been about snowmobile?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a heck of a,
with snowshoes.
So it's a rented dozer and hour operator?
Yep, that's correct. Yep. So we had so the 6 Mile line, conveys septic tank effluent from, 6 Mile over to the City of Angels Camp. And the City of Angels Camp Waste Treatment Facility, treats that water. We had a line break, and then, in the evening at the Skelty Park crossing. And so this is an image of, our crews responding at all hours of the day and night to resolve issues. This was about, I want to say 90 gallon spill, but this section of the 6 Mile sewer line is right on Angels Creek. And so this was reported to the state, the county, and our crews were in there and had it repaired within a matter of hours. So hats off to them and their work efforts. So the warehouse is moved. It's all cleaned out and ready to go. We have pallets of items in rail cars in the back here and in certain sections of the warehouse. We're in the midst of moving the shop now. So here's some images of our crews working together. You can see that famous welding table in the image on the left. The two mechanics slowly taking it off of a trailer and then lowering it. And then the fuel tank, we have a 3,000 gallon fuel tank in the image on the right, taking it off a trailer and lowering it on the ground right out here in the shop yard.
When does our lease expire at the?
April 27th. So we've given notice, yeah.
Okay.
And we're
Wow.
moving and we hope to walk the property with the property owner next week. We've been in that shop for a while, so it's gonna be an interesting walkthrough. But our guys have done great in terms of getting all of our material and equipment out of there and getting it cleaned up, and that continues now. The warehouse, which was the sublease, is empty. And so everything is over here now.
And we'll be saving, what was it, $300 a month?
Oh, no, I think it was 36,
3,000?
3,000, yeah.
3,600 a month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then we'll eliminate a sewer
3,000
charge and
per-
electricity, that side.
I think it was 3,600 a month total.
For the,
Uh, I want to say it's 2,600 per.
Oh,
And
maybe it was more than
then,
that.
and then, right, and then we have the $200 sewer charge, and then we have the electricity there. We'll carry the CPUD water service charge back over here. Which, that's small compared to the lease, but yeah. You can see the warehouse move continues, moving pipe. There's one of the rail cars that we have where we're storing material. Dylan Cuneo, happily at work on new item that was purchased as part of the capital outlay for the budget, new forklift for the shop and warehouse.
Who's driving that?
That is Dylan Cuneo.
He's got a big smile on his face there.
Always has a big smile on his face.
All the other employees, I'm sure, have a similar smile in that facility. Huh?
Oh, absolutely. Everyone's just high-fiving each other.
Happy workers.
I want to know when we're going to have the groundbreaking.
tour.
Oh, yeah.
We should probably get moved in first, but yeah,
Mhm.
let's do
Yeah,
a
sounds
ribbon
great.
cutting,
But,
cut the ribbon.
you haven't even thought about it.
Like maybe we should do like a customer appreciation day
Yeah.
here. And then we tour this and that, let them see how this type of operation works, admin side and the other, and have hot dogs and hamburgers or something.
And in the work areas of the new place, we have extension cords hanging from the ceiling.
Yes, so they can pull power and air from the ceiling.
Okay.
Yeah,
What a concept.
yeah. Yeah, so the image here on the left is, so we had a mechanics truck that was decommissioned and auctioned off, and all of the tools on that mechanics truck are now in the shop at West Point, which is just wanted to illustrate how resourceful our
Awesome.
crews are and how sensitive to the fact that we have all this great equipment. Let's keep using it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be used in the same application that it was prior. So this is now in the shop in West Point. You got a welder, you've got an air compressor with a rollaway hose, you got a fuel tank. It's the shop up there. It looks just fabulous.
You know,
Image on our, oh,
It's nice to hear you recycling and reusing.
all the time.
Make sure you remind us about that.
Yep, all the time, yeah. Image on the right, this is construction working with collections to pump septic tanks in West Point as a result of inflow and infiltration from the storms, and then discharging at the waste treatment facility. Here's air compressor repair, the mechanics. That's an unloader valve diaphragm on the image on the right. So this thing was putting crankcase oil into the system, which is a no-no for your valves and all the equipment that's going to operate via air. So mechanics ID'd that it was this unloader valve and the diaphragm and replaced that. Generator repairs saved us about $2,000. Our mechanics were able to disassemble the generator and take it to a radiator, the radiator off the generator and take it to a radiator shop and have it repaired. So this is for the Wallace Waste Treatment Plant, which was a great cost-saving effort. Always doing great work like that. And this is the Copper Cove Reclaim MOV. I believe this was on the last month's efforts also. And then here we go. This is an interesting one. Our mechanics backed up some septic tank rakes. So this is really clean right now, but it'll be, it's probably really dirty already. But these rakes can be used now to rake out, get as much sludge out of the septic tanks as possible. And then here's, another casualty of snow removal. The West Point gate was broken as a result of the snowplow, and the electricians and the operators, Scott Grutz and Brian Crumpacker, worked together to get the gate repaired out in West Point. Here's a detank pressure station in Rancho Calaveras, provides water pressure to approximately 14 homes up at the end of a cul-de-sac. One of the pumps failed, and mechanical and electrical work together to have a new pump motor installed. And then here's the Pond 4 aerator at Copper Cove. This is a critical piece of equipment. It pushes air into the pond to allow the creatures and critters that consume all the solids to continue to live, use that oxygen, and clean that wastewater.
You mean the biosolid composting?
Yes, exactly. Here's a couple compelling shots from some engineering projects. The image on the left is the Larkspur tank that we are replacing currently. And once you orient yourself, you realize that you're actually looking through a metal tank through the holes in the tank itself. And so that's the condition of some of the metal tanks that we have out in the system. And that's why we're working so diligently to have them replaced. Because they really, truly are on their last legs. So this tank is now down on the ground. The foundation metal pieces are now being removed, and we're working to construct the replacement tank. The image on the right is that is the second filter for the West Point water treatment plant being set on its foundation. So the crane is mid-process with the filter in the air. That was, you may have heard about the effort to get the filter to the treatment plant. It's not in the most vehicle-friendly locations, so it was quite an effort to get that actual filter up to the treatment site. So hats off to everybody that worked on that project. Kevin Williams is then handling the brunt of the Redwood tank and Larkspur tank replacement projects from an engineering perspective. Sam Singh from an engineering perspective on the water side at West Point, doing great work. And thank you all. I had to get a picture of the bucket truck in there. So that's the bucket truck. Jared Devich on the right. Just came down working on the AMI project. And then there's one of our mechanics trucks up on the pass in the middle of a snowstorm.
Great report.
So
Thank you.
Thanks.
getting back to this picture taken through the portal, It looks like those ribs, that go up to support the top of the tank are actually decomposing and falling.
That's correct. Yes, that's correct. And so, and I'm not sure, I think you can see the ladder in this tank on the
Yeah.
left there. And next to all those things hanging are like the high level, low level, start, stop, pump floats. But in a lot of our tanks, the ladder is gone. It's laying at the bottom of the tank because it's falling apart. And so
It's a terrifying picture.
it's a terrifying situation. So, you know, we have designs for tank replacements at B Tank in Copperopolis, which is fabulous. In that case, we're gonna actually cut the roof off the steel tank there and put a new roof on and repair any of the rust damage that might be on the tank. So we're kind of split the difference with the steel tank, but the redwood tank obviously doesn't have the same type of erosion that this does, but it will be replaced. And then we have in the CIP tank replacement projects throughout.
So this filter that's suspended by that crane, we've approved the purchase of several filters, as I recall
Yeah.
recently. But I don't remember the filters that we were talking about being quite that large. Is this one of them?
So what we approved recently were rehabilitations of filters just like this.
Well, I had no idea that they were 40 feet long and weighed 20,000 pounds.
Yeah.
They're similar to the ones at the Copper Cove Water Treatment Plant.
Right.
Those Trident water filters.
Yep.
Very similar to those. And so, sorry to cut you off, Dan.
Oh, yeah.
The other approvals were rehabs of existing filters at different treatment plants. This is, I mean, when did we place this order? Over a year ago,
Yeah.
probably. And
Yep.
it still took a lot of hard work from our engineering department, beating on the manufacturer to get the thing here when they finally did, and it was behind schedule. There were a lot of supply delays on this project, but finally got it here. But yeah, the purchase was made quite a while ago.
Well, the reason I bring that up is if I had known it was that big, you could have got more money.
Next time. There's always a next time.
Hey, Mike, are we having any issues with, access and pavement collapse? I mean, I just started a job over in Copperopolis and was talking to, and I've been hearing this from several of our concrete guys, my buddies, where they've, backed in on pavement, and the pavement's collapsing. There was one deal over there in Choctaw where they brought in a pump truck to pump it. And, the gravel truck got down there, the pumper got down there, and then, they poured probably 4 or 5 loads of concrete. Well, they couldn't get out. They destroyed about a good quarter mile of brand new pavement. Ended up, I guess it took 3 records and $15,000 to pull that pumper truck out.
Wow.
Just a big disaster. But I mean, I'm even cautious. I don't, I know guys that have just poured, a load of concrete down somebody's driveway and the pavement gives way. Are we cautious of that, or particularly if we're having to access anybody's private property? But
Well, it's a great highlight that you make to be cautious of it. We are. We haven't experienced any actual impacts to our vehicles, but we have experienced impacts to our roads. So the road into Forest Meadows is a paved road, Forest Meadows Waste Plant. And we are requesting funds from FEMA to reestablish that road because the storms just wreak havoc on it. And then next to the highway on Highway 4, our main has been exposed in multiple locations and Caltrans is handling that, but we have seen in Rancho off of Berkesee, I can't remember the side street, but it's a full slough. It's gone. And there's
it's like 2 bridges over there that
Yeah.
are closed for,
right.
I can't really see why that is, but yeah, the ground is just still so saturated that there's nothing holding it underneath. And many of them are, if they're not engineered like the state highway, they're not gonna last anyway into that. But I just want us to be cautious about it because
Yep.
if we take anything heavy down something, we need to, be concerned about it. I mean,
Yeah, it's a great point you make.
everybody's getting stuck out there, even though everyone's trying to, hold off as long as they can. Everybody's, they want to get the work done, and sure enough,
Right,
I've been there
yeah.
once this year already.
Yeah,
All right,
right.
let's move on to general manager's report.
All right, thank you.
Are we
Right,
through?
thank you, David.
excuse me, are we through with Damon's report?
Yes.
Okay, because I had a couple of questions,
Okay, go ahead.
okay?
No questions today.
For the purchasing agent, you know,
Mhm.
he sold and coordinated the removal of 7 surplus district vehicles.
Yes,
How did we do?
we sold a damaged inoperable truck for $3,500. Yeah, and there's it's called public purchase and it's a public auction site. So after y'all approve the surplus of these vehicles, we put them on there and we have folks that come from all over really the West Coast. We sold trucks and equipment to somebody in Utah, Southern California, Nevada, and they come with a trailer and we confirm you understand.
As is, yeah.
Inoperable.
Uh-huh.
Yep, no problem.
What did we get for the old snowcat?
12,000, I think,
Yeah.
or maybe that one might have been 7,000. And the old backhoe with no brakes and with a really rickety arm was 12,000.
Great.
Why do you need a brakes on a backhoe? You've got the outrigger, it's
Well-
kinds of brakes and stuff.
You can't, yeah,
You put the bucket down.
Drag a buck?
yeah. You rode it
Not let
backwards.
JPIA hear that comment. Can we scratch that from the?
Okay, and my other question, my other question was under miscellaneous. You had a grant writing 101 webinar. Who went to
Yes,
that?
so that was Kate Jesus, our engineering coordinator, attended that.
Oh,
Yeah, in the
okay.
engineering department and conveyed a lot of really good information to the rest of the group.
Great. And she's got half a dozen grants out already.
Yeah, so Kate has done a phenomenal job of submitting all the quarterly reports for all the grants that we have in process on time routinely and grabs all the most up-to-date information from all the project managers and submits that. It's great.
So
Half the
we're-
time I'm going around going, wait, and it's
Uh-huh.
done.
So we haven't had any setback with Jessica going, Kate.
We've been able to just keep on trucking Yep.
Okay,
from a grants perspective.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's
Thank
it.
you.
Anyone else have any other questions?
I like the pictures. They were good.
Great, thanks.
Could get some videos next time.
You know what? I have some. Okay,
Here's one. Michael, are you gonna have?
challenge accepted.
Report?
I don't.
We'll get some for
Come
my,
on.
Mine are less exciting. The pictures are less exciting.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you, David. On to 5B, General Manager's Report.
Okay, as you can tell, I'm just getting over being sick, so I'll probably try to keep mine to about 45 minutes here.
Just leave
That
it.
joke never gets old for some reason, for me at least. Damon already covered the courtyard. There was a state legislative symposium, Aqua State Legislative Symposium, a couple weeks ago. I think it was the day after our last board meeting. Director Radman was there. And the two big topics in the Capitol this year, as far as water goes, are some major water rights reform proposals that are very troubling, that Aqua's really taken a lead role in opposing, and then a potential water bond for 2024 that would be on the ballot in 2024. It's a climate change resiliency and water bond. And the Region 3 board, the part of Aqua that we are located in, has taken a really strong advocacy stance, and I give a lot of credit to Larry McKinney for this. And for funding dedicated to infrastructure in mountain counties and headwaters regions, because I think in the past, what's happened a lot of times is we raise what our priority issues are, and they kind of get funneled into IRWM or, a couple of other buckets of money that we're eligible to apply for. But what we've seen historically is very small percentages of that funding actually reaches rural areas and headwaters regions in particular. And, the IRWM funding was great through Prop 1, but I think it was less, it was in the single digits of the percentage of Prop 1 money that made it to areas like ours. And so we're really pushing hard to include in for Aqua to include in their advocacy funding that is dedicated, not just that we're eligible to compete or to compete for, because we end up competing against agencies that, the big agencies that end up getting all the money in the end. But funding that's dedicated to our regions and specifically not just for anything, but specifically for infrastructure replacement, because all of the Mountain County's agencies, we're seeing it up and down, are just severely impacted by the cost of replacing aging infrastructure. I don't know if you saw CPUD's proposed rate schedule for the next 3 years, and all of it is driven by CIP, same with the other agencies that are all around us. But their 3-year proposed rate increases are, if I remember correctly, it was 40% in year 1, 30% in year 2, and 46% in year 3. And it's all the same with, AWA had a similar, not quite that high, but a very similar rate increase last year that is all driven by capital replacement projects. So we're pushing really hard for, because they're talking, the size of this bond could be larger than anything we've seen before. Aqua's proposal, or they proposed a framework that was about 7.5 billion, I think, which is big, and from a historical standpoint for water bonds. At that legislative symposium, there was a panel that included Kip Lipper, who's the guy that pulls all the strings in Sacramento when it comes to water and environmental policy. It included Michael Quigley, who's the labor union equivalent. And I'm blanking on the third person. Anyways, 3 people that are very tuned into these issues and will be involved in deciding how large of a bond it is. And they've done polling already indicating that there may be support for a $15 billion water bond in 2024. And so really pushing on Aqua to not just make us, potentially eligible to bring some of that funding into our regions for infrastructure replacement, but dedicating some of that funding for that purpose. So that's something we're going to continue to advocate for. Harken back to my favorite legislative advocacy strategy of a campaign of annoyance. And so we're just going to keep raising it until they finally give us some money and keep fighting that battle, because it's really what is, between wildfire risk mitigation and forest management activities and replacing aging infrastructure. Those are really, among the highest priorities in terms of funding that we just don't have the resources for. So we're pushing really hard on that front. The other thing I want to mention is we're working really closely still with the Army Corps on funding the Copper Cove wastewater treatment improvements. We had a is setback the right term?
Bad news.
Curveball, change of course a little bit a couple of weeks ago when, we'd been proceeding under the guidelines for the Section 219 program for quite some time now. And we learned in March that they issued new guidelines and the rules of the program had completely changed. And
The rules what?
The rules of the program had completely changed. And so that was a bit frustrating, needless to say. But we've been working with Mia on it. We've been working with the Sacramento district on it, and they're still very responsive. They're still very committed to getting the funding here and getting the project done. We just have to go about it in a different way, essentially. So it's the blessing and the curse of funding a project in this way is the bureaucratic red tape that we have to get through in order to get the project done. But we're adapting to the new rules, and we're still gonna get it done. So there'll be more to come on that. Other than that, I mentioned already, we already have a candidate that has accepted our offer for the external affairs manager position. We also have a candidate who has accepted an offer for the district engineer position. We hope the external affairs manager may start as soon as the end of this month. and the district engineer probably mid next month, hopefully. But we're really excited about both of those candidates, and I will publicly announce names as soon as I can.
That's awesome.
And other than that, we've got a bunch of committee meetings coming up over the next week or so between public relations, finance, engineering committee, all of those happening in the next week. We'll be bringing financial plan information that will feed into the rate study to the finance committee and to the board later this month. That was it.
Thank you. Any questions for Michael? Any follow-up manager report?
Well, Michael, when Prop 1, they came out with all this money, how many years ago?
What was Prop 1?
And
14?
yeah, and we were saying at that time, we want to make sure that we get a lot of money out of that. We wanted to put our advocates in the right position so that they could yell and scream and get some money. And what we found is that we didn't get what we wanted. So, what are we going to do differently this time with this new bond?
Yeah, and I think that you're absolutely right. That's what happened in the
Uh-huh.
past, and it's happened before. And so we're pointing to that as, and because what generally the response that we got initially when we proposed dedicated funding for our region and for our priorities was, oh, well, there's the RWM money and there's these other pockets of money that are included in the bond that you'll be eligible for. But we can point to Prop 1 and other examples and say that money, even if we might be eligible for it, it doesn't make it for various reasons. And so that model didn't work for us in the past. We need a different mechanism. We need language that dedicates those funds to our region. So we're using that as part of the advocacy effort.
And who's gonna write that document? Who are we not lobbying? I mean, the discussion that you and I had about this Mike McDaniel guy. I mean, what?
Yeah.
What can our senator do? What can leadership Senate? I mean, we have the potential to have some dialogue with somebody that's in a position that probably hasn't been. I think most of the Senate leadership has always been urban folks, right?
Yeah.
Generally, but that's where the battle is right now, is this is a legislatively proposed package. So the discussion is happening in the legislature right now. It'll go through the legislative process, and as long as it has the governor's support, then it'll end up on the ballot next year. So right now it is legislative advocacy.
When do we have our legislative meeting?
When do we? Monday.
Monday.
Okay.
And we can discuss that more, and to answer your question, Jeff, Mountain County will be a lot more involved than they have been in advocacy moving forward. I have a state lobbyist who is awesome. And that's the other thing that I did that morning, visited Senator Gil Alvarado's office before the legislature. I was down in Sacramento, and that's with Mountain Counties, and that's and our legislative advocate our Mia in Sacramento is very, very awesome, and they're working for the entire, all members of Mountain Counties.
Yeah.
And be sure to, if there's anything that we can do, on a local level, I want to make sure that we get seen and heard.
I agree. And that's part of what the message is that we've been using is, to get a bond as big as what they're talking about through the voters, you need all of the state, not just the urban areas, to see the benefit in the bond for their area. And if we don't see the benefit in the bond for our area, it's not something that we would go out of our way to support. If not vocally opposed.
How they were talking about that and the dollar amount of it, and but the two people that Michael referred to had polls that were like hours old. And that's what they were relying on, talking about these numbers and talking about when and how much, but the how much is going to be based on those polls.
Right.
And it's going to be something that's going to be decided a year from now, not now, is going to be what the flavor of the month, flavor of the year is as it gets closer.
Yeah, and Larry very eloquently posed this question to Kip during that panel, and raised this issue of, the need for wildfire suppression that is linked to the need for aging infrastructure, replacement of aging infrastructure in rural communities. And so addressing infrastructure needs in rural communities should be a high priority. And the response he got from Kip Lipper was absolutely, that has to be included in this. And so we're taking that quote and really hammering it home, because he's the guy that'll, be making the decision at the end of the day.
Okay,
But-
well, you'll keep us well informed on what.
But Mountain County has to be prepared to oppose it.
I agree. And I think,
I mean, they need to
they're
be
really,
flat
there,
out.
there's no daylight at all between Mountain County's advocacy and ours. There can be sometimes between ours and Aqua's. And so that's really what we're trying to push Aqua to close that gap and say, no, our priorities need to be included in here, need to be addressed.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. Thank you, Michael. In the, okay, our board reports. Let's start with Bertha.
Oh, okay. Here's first. Okay, we didn't talk about the fact that Abbott's Pass will be having a town hall meeting.
Oh, how could I have forgotten
April 28th.
Rescheduled.
18th. Okay, April 18th. And how many, I don't know if any other directors are going to be.
I will not be able to attend now because I'll be in Texas.
I won't be able to attend.
I would like to, but I can't.
You would like to?
You are going to?
I'm gonna be out of town.
Okay, well, my invitation is open, so,
that. It should be, we'll have a live stream, right? Yeah.
okay. White Pines Park is looking at opening May 1st. Okay, and so I'll have an EPOC meeting on Monday. Not an EPOC, a White Pines Park Committee meeting on Monday, and so I'll be sure to tell everybody about the town hall, because I want to have, a good representation. Since we are the biggest, we have the most customers up there, they ought to be there. And so I'm going to encourage them to attend. And the pictures of the snow, yeah, as I say, it's dropped a little bit, but we still have snow, and it's all in front of my house, I think.
And just to touch on the town hall, so we've done a round already. We're gonna find a different way to hit the West Point area. We're gonna do more of this over the course of the summer, and what we ended up deciding to do with the tours, because they got postponed because of weather and other circumstances, is the next round that we do will include the tour component in the.
During the good weather
Yeah.
months.
And we're more confident about the weather, because even when we were rescheduling this one, we didn't have this kind of weather yet, so we still were kind of cautious about scheduling anything other than indoors.
Yeah. Yeah, Rebecca and I have talked about this town hall on
Mhm.
Tuesday. And so it'll be a smash hit.
We're excited about it.
Anything else?
That's it.
Cindy.
Okay, the only thing I need to say, I will be not at the next meeting. I'll be leaving for Texas on Monday and not returning till around May 2nd or 3rd. I do plan on calling in. I don't need to participate, but I'll just stay informed with every one of my meetings that I can, engineering and whatnot. I cannot make your town hall. And then,
But you'll be calling in, right?
I won't be calling in for your town hall. I wanted to tell Rebecca, I noticed your little page dividers that, in the digital copy, and I like that. Thank you. And just a reminder about Walmart. Thank you. Yeah, and all the reports today was really nice. Thank you. Good job.
Russ.
Okay, just some housekeeping here to begin with. We've got next board meetings listed as the 26th of April and May 10th. I thought we discussed that conflict with the Aqua.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
meeting.
so the May 10th meeting is gonna have to be either canceled or rescheduled, and so we'll come back with a proposal at the next board meeting for that.
Okay. All right. You made some comment earlier about the roads that you're encountering aren't built to state standards, but Highway 4 between here and Copperopolis had
right.
steel plates all over it, where the state spec failed and and they had to put steel plates over there to keep cars from going in a hole. It's really quite amusing in a way. No, that doesn't matter. So chances are we'll cancel the 10th and just have one meeting in May then.
Yeah, we've talked about the possibility, I should mention at least, although we haven't settled on it necessarily, but we've talked about the possibility of a workshop on the 3rd, May 3rd. To discuss the 5-year financial plan, but we haven't committed to anything yet. We'll keep the board posted once we come up with a final plan, and we'll coordinate all that with the board.
I hope you can work on that workshop. I got a notice today that I'm supposed to report for jury duty on that day.
Oh,
So
What day are you
Gotcha.
throwing out,
You can
Michael?
cancel that.
well, we'll, I shouldn't necessarily plan it or schedule it here. We'll be in touch with the board as that gets solidified.
okay, well, that concludes my report.
Jeff, just real quick, it's Mike McGuire that I'm picking up.
That
Yeah.
I was like, man, this guy's not showing up anymore. Okay.
No, I got it wrong, but anyway, I met somebody, I didn't meet somebody, I've known somebody for a long time when I was in Cabo, they're a contractor from Sonoma. But one of the family members worked for Mike McGuire, who's the Senate leader, and we got to talking about different things. I mean, he's from Sonoma, he also represents Humboldt, a lot of similar, aspects, forest management, that sort of thing. So I'm gonna try to make contact or have Michael make contact and at least get an opportunity to talk to somebody in Senate leadership. Because like I said earlier, I think in the past, it's been primarily ran by, urban area folks. And as the more, and I think we have a lot in common. I mean, certainly forest management. There's a lot of things going on. I mean, Calvers County and Sonoma, all the way up through Humboldt, have a lot of similarities, and we have an opportunity to have at least share our legislative thoughts with this person and hopefully make some progress. I mean, obviously we'll, include our senator, but if we could make a meeting where we can see them both, I think it would be helpful. So I'll try to make contact before Monday and get that together. So,
Yeah, he's the Senate Majority Leader, so.
pardon?
He's the Senate Majority Leader, which is a different position than the Senate President Pro Tem. So he's basically in charge of the Democratic Party in the Senate.
Anything further? Yeah, I have a few things. I did miss our last meeting on Wednesday, March 22nd. That was the day I had my JPIA property meeting in Roseville. And earlier that day, I met with Mountain Counties, with Justin, to see Senator Alberto Gill's office and her staff. The next day was the Aqua Legislative Symposium that Michael spoke on. Won't go into any other details on that. But that morning, well, I was there for 2 days for both those things. I went to the JPIA Executive Committee in Roseville on that Thursday morning. That was very interesting. That's the position, the board that I'm running for, be voted on in May, and I'm going to make an announcement on that in a second. Our board meeting on May 10th, we'll talk about that afterwards. I saw Joel Metzger, and he wanted me to let everybody know Thursday, May 4th at Ironstone Vineyards, he's having his free water, our gold. It's the same thing they did at the Bret Hart Theater. It's a film Refreshments are going to be provided. It's Thursday, May 4th from 6 to 7 at Ironstone Vineyards Music Room. I'll just let everybody know. And then my news, I threw my hat in the ring for Aqua JPIA Executive Committee. It's a 9-member board. They meet several times a year. They also attend the other property, liability, workers' comp and benefits. They also go to those meetings as well, but they meet several times a year. And basically it's running the group that runs the office. It's a 9-member, eight are elected. And then the 9th member is whoever the Aqua vice president happens to be. It's Kathy Green right now. So she sits on that board. There are four empty spaces. So there's so I threw my hat in the ring for one of those, and to get on the ballot, you had to have a resolution for your own board. And thank you all for passing that earlier this year. And then you also need to get 3 concurring resolutions from other member boards. So I got my 3 from PCWA, Contra Costa Water Agency, and
Molten.
McGill were my main 3. That's where June Lopez is in Southern California. But just to go a step further, I also received support from Utica Water and Power Authority, Georgetown Divide Public Utility District, Calaveras PUD, Contra Costa Water District, Amador Water Agency, and Tuolumne Utility District. So I only needed 3, and I also got a letter of support from the County of Alpine. So I went ahead and got 9. And I'm going to mention those in my speech. There's 13 people running for 4 positions. And so to get on that board, you have to get 50% plus 1. And everybody has to get 50% plus 1. So the way they're going to do it is everyone that comes in the door that's voting on that Monday, it's Monday, May 8th at the Aqua JPIA general session at 1 p.m. Everyone that's voting walks in, they're going to get 8 ballots. Paper ballots. They decided at that executive meeting I went to, they're not going to try the electronics, switch things up. They're going to do paper ballots. Give everybody that's voting a total of 8. Every page is going to be a different color. So the first one might be yellow, and everybody votes for 4 people. 4. And if nobody gets 50%, so it's 120 people voting, you need to get 61 votes. If no one gets 61 votes, they're going to take the top 5, and they're going to go on to the second ballot. So they take all these paper ballots, go in the back room, count them all up, come back, make an announcement. And then they're going to run a second ballot. There may only be 110 people in the room on the second time they do the ballot. You don't know. So whatever it is, they're going to.
There might only be 5 people.
There might only be 5 people in the room left. So we'll see. But everybody, they got to keep going with that. So they got 8 ballots. Got to keep going with the paper ballots until they may get the first vote. They may get 1 person out of there. So then they're only going to be voting for 4 people of the top 4 until they've got a new slate of 4 new officers. So,
Well, good luck.
thank you very much. And that's all I have. Okay, we do have a closed session, Conference of Legal Counsel, anticipated litigation, 8A, and we're going to take a break, go into closed session. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.